Welcome back to Cards and Comics, guys. Today I have a fun video where I'm going to go into sort of how I try to find 90s cards, and I go from, the education piece to how I search and just some tips and tricks on how I look for and scour the planet looking for cool 90s cards. Now, the idea for today's video comes from a viewer, and it actually comes from the biggest Hurt 35, who wrote on my 98 Crusade collection update, that he would like to look at, the process or just how I think about or look at finding cool cards from the 90s. So I'm going to give away or talk about it. It's not probably a lot of these tips and tricks are going to be things you already know for a lot of people who are really into looking for these hard to find or just obscure cards from the 90s. But I thought, for people who just want to get into this and kind of some how to look for things and kind of just have a fun way of spending time on eBay trying to find cool stuff or other channels, which I'm going to talk about. So before I get into that, I want to do one quick thing is my 4-year YouTube anniversary is coming up on July 19th, which will be this Friday. You can see my first published video was on July 19th, 2020. So it's been a cool long journey, and I'm thinking about going live on Friday. So if you guys would like to see me go live on Friday, let me know in the comments. I haven't gone live in a long time. If you go back to last year's anniversary video, you'll kind of understand why. But I'm thinking about going live, and I might see if a friend or two may want to join me for my 4th year anniversary channel palooza. So all right, let's get back into the topic of today's video, which is how do I look for, or what do I do to try to find cool cards in the 90s and kind of mine what's available to find kind of stuff that's cool to collect. And again, I don't collect everything Griffey or like say the big hitter cards. I do collect a lot of 90s cards just to build sets or to find players I like, like Ivan Rodriguez, who's not, the biggest star from the 90s. So, I use a lot of these techniques to try to find and locate cards from either sets that are obscure or players that may not always come up for auction. So the first thing you have to do on the education side is get very familiar with Baseball Cardpedia. We're lucky as if you're a baseball card collector, to have Baseball Cardpedia, because I also collect Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders and football cards do not have this type of resource. On the basketball side, I know there's a lot more websites out there dedicated to inserts, but they're very focused on like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. They're not as in-depth or broad, in my opinion, as Baseball Cardpedia. So invaluable resource. So I use Baseball Cardpedia for a lot of things. Once it's a checklist. You can find all the cards, from a set in there. You can look at the odds. You can find out how tough cards are. That's a big deal. But I use it for other things too. I use it, for educational purposes, but also to try to find things that I may have not known about certain card sets. So I'll give 97 Leaf as a great example of just a lot of little hidden things in a set. And when you read through the set on Baseball Cardpedia, you'll learn some really cool stuff. So again, this is the set that has the Fractal Matrix cards. And so, when I first was into Fractal Matrix, or just getting into the whole idea, I knew that the Z-axis die cut was rare and the golds were rare. And that's all I really knew. I had no clue like what the different print runs were, how rare each card was comparatively, how many versions there was. I thought at one point there was a Z and a Y and an X-axis die cut for every card, and that you could have a gold with 3 different die cuts. I mean, I just didn't really understand how the set worked, and because I really had no reference for it, because it was kind of confusing back in the day. So when you go through this, Baseball Cardpedia, you'll find when you go to that section on Fractal Matrix, the parallels. And again, the first section here has odds or with their number 2. So you can find it. I mean, and it's very interesting that there's no odds for some of these cards listed on Leaf's own packaging. So that's one of the things about the 90s that you always weren't given odds sometimes. But they do this great write-up here on fractal matrix, which kind of gives you the basics, how many versions there are, how many die cut patterns. They give you photos of the patterns. And then they get into this really cool breakdown. And the best part of the breakdown is this chart, because I learned something when I was doing an investigation for the set about just the rarity. And again, there's 125X, 50Ys, and 25Zs. And the first thing I learned was that the Z-axis die-cut golds were numbered, all Z-axis die-cuts, regardless of their color, are out of 100. So that's really interesting, right? I didn't know that. When I first went into the set, I thought all Z-axis cards that were gold were 100, but the bronze has to be more. No, every color is out of 100. But the thing that was really cool for me to learn, and what I showed in the video was that, and it says it right here, is that the gold x-axis regular version is also out of 100, because the first 400 in every color for the x-axis are die cut. There was only 500 golds made for the x-axis, so the first 400 were die cut. That means the x-axis regular card golds are the same print run as the z-axis die cuts. I didn't know that. That's cool. Like, I learned that. It made me go after some cards on eBay, made me go on other venues to try to find those regular x-axis cards. And so it's just fun. And then, of course, when you get here, there's a checklist. So you can actually go up in this checklist and find out what x-axis cards were, which cards had the bronze x-axis. You can see Kevin Brown, number 381. So that's how you can kind of use this to kind of your advantage to say, oh, okay, or sorry, gold x-axis cards. How many of them? And again, going back up here, you can see trying to find a GX on the list, and that card right there, the regular version, will be numbered out of 100, or should have a print run of around 100 cards. And there's not that many of them on the checklist. Here's a good one: Jose Cruz Jr. His regular go card is out of 100. So that's how you could use this. And then the other part that I like about this is it gives, again, great information about certain sets. Like when you go to the bottom here, there's this write-up about the Frank Thomas collection game use cards, where you find out these were the first ever numbered game use cards. They were the first ever materials other than jerseys. So there was batting gloves and bats and hats and sweatbands. So that was a tremendous, let's say, evolution of the card hobby, was this set here, and it's very poorly, let's say, understood or seen. It's a set that doesn't get seen very often, but nobody really understands sort of how important this set was. And this is why Baseball Cardpedia is really important, because now when you see one of these cards in the wild, you realize this card is part of hobby history. It was really the birthplace of modern game use cards, was these Frank Thomas cards out of the set. And I think that makes those cards really cool. But again, they're not something you see very often. And that's when someone says, well, how do you find out about all these cool cards? How do you kind of know like what's cool and what's not? Baseball Cardpedia is such a valuable resource, because it gives you this kind of information. It really tells you how or kind of be able to cut through the millions of cards made in the 90s and which ones were rare, cool, had some historical value to them. And this is just another example. 97 Leaf is a fascinating set. It's one of those sets that has just tons of good stuff in it, but it's a set that you don't really hear people talking about, but it's got a lot of cool stuff like this in that set. Again, these were in Series 2 packs as well. Series 2, not Series 1. So again, when you go out and buy a box of cards like I'm doing on my channel, it's really important that if I want to try to find one of these cards, I got to open a Series 2 box. Now, the other thing they do cool down here at the bottom is they have these sort of like running years. So if you want to know about the 98 Leaf set, you can click here. If you want to know about similar sets, like the Fractal Matrix, the next version of it came out in a version, there's 98 Fractal Foundations, which was the next evolution. So you can click right here and go right to that next version of the set. You can also, it has like kind of similar sets or parallel brands. Donner's Collections, which was not the same as Fractal Matrix, but it has a lot of similar, say, dynamics in terms of how it was built. So it gives you a lot of ways to go from, oh, here's a cool set, here's some other cool sets that are similar, or the prior year or the next year, so you can go to those sets to see what's going on with them. So it's really useful. It's hard to underestimate how important Baseball Cardpedia is to people who want to learn about the 90s, who want to find what cards are cool, what cards are rare, and it's the best resource tool we have. And so to me, it's something that you really have to get comfortable with and learn how to use. So let's move on to how I search for cards on eBay. So here is eBay loaded up, and the only thing I put in the search bar was card. So we're going to start here with just the word card. And if you look at it, we got 51 million results. So the first thing I do is I go over here to, and again, with eBay searches, you can't really search for nothing. So you have to start with something. So I'll start with card. And then we'll refine this search as we go. But the first thing I go over here is to season. If you click on that and hit see all, you can go through and, if it works, here we go. You can actually select just the 90s. Now, what I do, since I collect baseball and football, I only click on the years that have just 1 year, because 9091 typically is used for basketball sets. A lot of sports, the season carried over. I think football may be somewhat similar, but basketball specifically will carry over, and so a lot of sets are listed for basketball as multiple year. So I will kind of eliminate them because I don't want to get that basketball cards in my search engine. But if you want to be very, let's say, inclusive, click them all, because we can refine this search later on. I'm just showing you how I normally do it. So I put the 90s, and then now a lot of times I'll not do 91 and 90, because honestly there's not a lot of inserts from 90 91 that I'm really looking for. So I'll start with, and 92 as well, I'll start with 93 and kind of go 93 on up. I do include 2000, 2001, because there's a few sets and cards from those years I do look for, just from personal things I want to buy. And so there we go. So we have that, we hit apply, and we go from 51 million, now we're down to 5.8, right? So you can do this a lot of ways. So what I normally do for me, because there's so many cards listed that are just kind of, I don't know, like a museum type, when I'm really doing searches, I hit auction, okay? Then I go to sort by bids most. Now this gets me looking at cards that actually have bids, and that's a better chance that they're not going to be there kind of museum pieces that people actually they're at a price that people are bidding on. Then I select baseball, I select football. Now I've got the two sports I collect and what has the highest number of bids. So this gives me an idea of like the stuff that's popular should pop up first. As I scroll through and search, I can kind of just see other sets, other cards. And like here is like a lot of cards. So I could click on this and see if there's cards in this lot I'm interested in. But the first card that's showing up here is the 96 Leaf Gold Signature on-card auto Derek Jeter. The 10 auto, it's a pretty hard card to find auto. Then you get right into an EX Century Credentials Ferry Bonds numbered 24. That's a great card, even though it's graded by USA. That's really weird, honestly. So it's just like, is that card kind of altered or something? I don't know. It's weird that USA graded it. 94 Refractor lot with 52 cards in it. I might bid on that because, hey, I might want to do that set one day, right? 52 cards. Right now it's at $2 a card. I mean, that's, then you got Tom Brady cards. So again, if you want to get rid of the Tom Brady cards, sometimes I do unclick 2000 because if I have football on my search in 2000, obviously you're going to get a lot of Tom Brady. But as I go through here, 95 finest, there's a lot of 13 refractors. And so that's cool. Like, I mean, I'm scrolling through here and I'm seeing, here's a 95 Classics Barry Bonds card, Peyton Manning autograph here. That's a really cool Peyton Manning autograph card. I don't have that one. That's a cool one. Put that in my saved list here. Let's see, 2000 Showdown. Again, 17 bids for $21. That's interesting. Tim Brown Action Pack Catching Fire 24 karat gold. It's a cool looking card. I've never seen that card before. That's a cool looking card. Let's see. I want a 95 Bowman's Best Vlad Guerrero refractor. I've got the Scott Rowland. I don't have the refractor there. Now here is a Pedro Martinez gold, and I'm going to click on it because I just want to see one thing. Yep, it's got the die cut, so that's cool. So again, I can just click on the little thing here and put it in my watch list, and that's a cool card. So that's a card I would be interested in looking at. I pulled that Yaz auto right here. Well, I pulled the Top Stars version. That's the Team Legends, but I pulled a very similar card. So again, this is just something that as you walk through, you can look at. There's a Griffey Epic, signatures card. Awesome. That's a cool card. I have one, but I'm still going to watch it on my watch list. So again, it's fun to go through here. You can just see the cool cards. Here's a 2001 Chrome rookie Albert Pujols. I don't have that card. Maybe I'll put it on the watch list. But it gives me an idea. Here's a 71 Nolan Ryan. I don't have that. This Stadium Relics, Al Kaline. I'll look at it. But again, Ryan Sandberg, George Brett autos. So I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. I'm probably going to run out of space on my watch list. And I can't help but click on these cards because I'm looking just like you are, at the cards, and I'm like, oh, those are cool. Those are things I would look at to maybe add to my collection. So this is how I use eBay a lot of times, and I can vary up the searches. So for example, if I wanted to go back up here and say I only want to look at PSA, versions of these cards, and I can do the same thing and do the same search. Go back to the season. And that's one thing I don't like about how eBay works. Is it makes you redo this whole thing again. So again, but I can go right back and put in that same criteria: 93, 94, 95, 95, 96, 97, 98. This time we won't do the 2000s. That way we don't get a lot of the football cards in there, or the Brady's. And now I'm just looking at, and then I can go down and just hit baseball. Let's just look at baseball this time around. Now I'm just looking at baseball. So now I'm looking at PSA graded baseball, and again, that USA bond shows. I want to put on my watch list because it's a cool card, but it's an interesting card. But then here's the most bet. So here is, there's another Griffey auto. So now I'm just looking at PSA graded cards. So that might be a search you want to do. Look at that Thunderclap for $200. It's cool, right? It's a 9, but it's Kirby Puckett. It's a tough set. It's a tough condition set. So again, just walking through here, you can see how I'm using. There's an International Refractor PSA 10 Griffey, a Legacy Collection Pedro. So this is how I'm really looking and trying to find. And then sometimes you'll find something cool, like here's a Museum Collection Griffey for $9, or sorry, for $31. That's a cool card. PSA, look at this 10 Griffey Diamond Kings, right? It's at $300 for a 93 Diamond Kings, but it's a 10. There's so many 10 collectors in the Griffey world. So that's how I use eBay. There's tons of ways to do it. There's Star Ruby's Gwen. It's a cool card. There's just a lot of ways to try to use eBay, but this is my main search. Now, the other thing you can do on eBay, So let's talk about once you find a cool card or a set you want to collect. So recently I've been into the 99 Ultimate Victory set. I talk about it a little on my channel on some videos where I said, that set it's a set that I really liked as a kid. Well, really not as a kid, but when I got back sort of out of college and got back to hardcore collecting, it and the 99 Bowman's Best set was something I really enjoyed opening. I talked about Rick and Keel was a huge thing where I was living. And so there is a parallel in that set out of 100. It's this, they call them like Silver Wave, these wave parallels, and they're numbered out of 100. So I saw a couple of them really cheap, so I picked some up, and I noticed that a lot of them were from the same seller. So I clicked on that seller, and then, or I clicked on the card, and then I noticed, that I bought from this guy before, and so I went to his channel, so I clicked on, if you click on seller's other items, it goes right here to this seller, and then you can see what's on his, eBay store. And then right away, you can tell this seller has tons of cool cards. The Pinnacle Inside Diamond Edition die cut. That's a cool card. For people who don't know, tough card. So it's cool. He's got the Barry Bonds, Diamond Edition die cut from '97. Cool card. But then you notice, like if I was looking for those Ultimate Victory weight parallels, this guy's got the Halliday. He's got a lot of them. If I scroll down, you'll see he's got the Vizquel. Then he's got other rare parallels like the 99, Pacific Prism. Some of the really tough parallels for that. He's got a Thunder Rave, A-Rod, some other prisms, Griffey's from the 90s. So it's like he's got a lot of rare. Here is a Mike Piazza Forte, numbered out of 100. So again, you look at his his store, you can see he's got a lot of 90s cards, a lot of refractors, a lot of cool cards, and all along with some modern cards. So, but he's a guy that you can see has a lot of cool stuff. And so, a mirror blue Jeff Bagwell from 96 Select, that's a cool card. Now, is he priced super duper duper cheap? No, but again, is he a guy you could do the next thing? What I would recommend is send him a message. Say, hey man, I collect 90s cards. I see you got a lot of cool 90s cards. He may not have them all listed, right? He may have a bunch of stuff sitting at home that he hasn't graded yet, or maybe just hasn't gotten around to listing yet. And then he's got a wide selection of cards. He's got a lot of cool stuff from the 90s. Send him a message. Say, hey man, like I'm looking for these sets. Do you have any cards from these sets? I'm looking for this player. What do you have in this player? And that is a way you can use eBay to kind of connect with some of these sellers, because a lot of these guys, do have a lot of these cards because they kind of specialize. And looking at his, his store, it looks like he definitely was specializing in a few sets and a few players. So if you collect those things or just interested, you might have something that you really want that maybe not be listed. So, that's another thing, you should always do is if you find a card or a cool card that you've been looking for from a seller, always check out his store. Always check to see if he's got 4 or 5 more of them listed, or message him and say, hey, I collect this set. Do you have any more sitting at home? It's worth a try. It costs you nothing. In the last area, place I want to talk about is check out my cards. So check out my cards. I've been very successful buying 90s cards there. Now, you can make offers. And so I'll give you some pros and cons about check out my cards. Here's cards I've bought, from check out my cards. I've bought out some of the gold fractal matrix cards I just talked about, the non-die cut ones. You can see from learning that whole thing on Facebook Cardpedia, I bought the Mike Piazza, the Helton, the Grieve. And the thing about Facebook Cardpedia, check out my cards, is it's smart enough. It knows that those cards are out of 100. You can see they actually list them as numbered out of 100. So, it's smart. But I got the pin Grieve for $2.75. So I paid $23 for the Piazza and Helton. So, it definitely Check Out My Cards does try to put as much information as possible for those cards. So it kind of gives you a little bit of the information without you having to learn it through Baseball Cardpedia or other sources. Now, you can see I've bought artist proofs. These 98 Pinnacle Plus are actually numbered out of 100. So I bought the Vlad Jr., the Vlad Guerrero, and then I bought the Ivan Rodriguez. I bought this Golden Anniversary Reggie White, numbered out of 50. A Florida Tradition 63 Classic. So a lot of variety, a lot of artist proofs, some refractors, just a lot of interesting cards on Check Out My Cards. So the pros and cons. The pro about Check Out My Cards is that the transaction side of it's easy. You can make offers on cards. The big con is that to make an offer on a card, you have to have the money in your account. So it doesn't sound like a big deal, but if you do that, if you make the offer, you have to wait till it's either rejected or times out before you get that money back into your account because it takes it out. So if you've got 5 or 10 cards, unlike eBay where you make offers and then if they accept it, right now eBay has it where it just automatically pays them. But here it's pulling your money first, and then if they choose to decline it, the money comes back, or if it times out, you get your money back. I just don't like that option. Because there might be 10 cards you're looking at, and it's like I'll add money to my account, but I don't want to keep adding money to my account just to make offers. Because if 8 of them don't accept it, I've got all this money sitting there now that I didn't need to add because they didn't take the offers. So it's a little bit clunkier to use, but it definitely has a lot of cool cards. And I'm just going through my purchase history. You can see refractors and the man card and 99 Top Stars and Steel Gold holographic. Home and Away, Platinum Medallion from Fuller Ultra. So I'm able to get some really cool cards. In some cases, they're not always the cheapest. Sometimes you may pay a little bit more. But Check Out My Cards has another great feature, and which is that after you buy the card, you can, I'll go to my dashboard, you can go grading submissions, and you can go ahead and send them to PSA or CGC and have them graded. And here's some examples of cards I've just got recently graded. So I got a 96 Bowman's Best Mirror Image Griffey graded, came back a 9. A 98 Donna Signature Millennium Marks Mariano Rivera came back a 6, but that card's pretty condition sensitive. It chips really easily. I got a red label numbered to 100 Reggie White, came back a 9. And the artist proof Vlad Guerrero came back a 7. A little disappointed in that. But again, an Ivan Rodriguez refractor from 99 Bowman's Best, one of my favorite sets, came back a 9. So it just shows you that Check Out My Cards has some pretty cool utility. You can search, you can make offers. Recently, there's been runs, and I could go back to last year. There was one seller last year that was selling a lot of his Griffey collection, and what he would do is he would list a bunch of cards from 1 or 2 sets, and so you could get the Thomas, the Griffey, the Jeter from a set, like a 99 Bowman's Best Atomic Refractor, he was or something like that. Something cool that was all from the same set, multiple good players. And so, but he lists them all once. And it's just same way for the 97 new Pinnacle cards, the artist proofs I just bought. They all got listed at one time. So I'd say as a strategy, if you're going to collect a set or a player, when someone like that runs those kind of cards, that's a great opportunity to pick up something that slips through the cracks if you're a value player, because people get so everyone's going to be bidding a lot of the high-end stuff that some of the rare stuff that may not be so popular slips through the cracks. And that's the strategy you should look at is if you see Probstein or these big-time DC cards or whatever, MC cards, source cards, they list these big, auctions with a lot of cards from the same set or a lot of Griffey cards all at once. Stuff falls through the cracks in those auctions. That's a good opportunity to pick up something. Or for the 97 new Pinnacle artist proofs, I just went all in and tried to pick up as many of the great players as I could, maybe overpay a little bit, but you never know when you're going to get another chance or opportunity for that. for some of those cards to come out in that, and they were in good, really high grade, and a tough set to grade. So again, that's another opportunity, a way to just go all in when those auctions come up. Either go all in on a big card or really try to mine those cards slipping through the cracks that you might be able to kind of sneak in there and get at a good price. So again, that's happened recently a few times. And the other one I want to talk about is before I let you go is the buying of complete sets. On eBay, a lot of times I've been able to buy a full set, the entire set, for the price of maybe one or two cards in that set. So you get the rest of the cards, kind of for free. So like I'll look at a set and I say, well, the Griffey's worth $40. The Thomas is like 15, and the Bonds is 10 or 15, or the Jeter's worth 25. So that's like $60 of cards, and I'll make an offer of like 70 or 80, and I'll get the whole set. And so I'll get a 50 card set, 30 card set, 40 card set for basically the price of 2 or 3 of the superstars. That to me is a good way of picking up those kind of cards. Sometimes it's even cheaper than the cards by themselves. And so just look at that value proposition on a complete set to what those cards bring individually. You might find some good deals, and I have found some good deals on complete sets on eBay as well. So there it is, guys. I know I was going to say I was done a little earlier. I just want to get that out there to give you guys a full picture of how I'm really looking at buying and selling, or just buying these kind of cards and trying to build the collection. Let me know if you have further questions or things that you want to share with me and how you are looking for cards and strategies that work for you. Share them in the comments. Hopefully you join me coming up on 7/19 for the 4-year anniversary of the channel, and we'll celebrate then, and I hope to see you there, and I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.